what she has set up for you. It'd be great if you could do more, but I'm not sure what she has set up for you.
Okay.
So,
So I don't know. We'll see.
all right. Well,
Here.
well, you've got a pretty
Ready?
good audience here. You've got 4 of us, so treat us like we're your audience and have fun with it.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you, Kelly, for that nice introduction. I'm really happy to be here today and to share Positive Coaching Alliance information about double goal coaching with all of you today. I was first exposed to Positive Coaching Alliance, or PCA, 3 or 4 years ago when by 2 of my coaching colleagues and very good friends. The first is Ann Molk, who's a PCA trainer here in Minnesota and also someone I coach lacrosse with. And she was actually giving a youth lacrosse coaching clinic that I was required to attend because I'm a youth coach here in Minnesota. And to be honest, I was thinking, oh, well, I just got to go through the motions and go to this clinic because I really don't have to learn a ton about coaching youth lacrosse. I know a lot already. But I was looking forward to seeing Ann nonetheless. And I was really happy when I got there and was surprised. And actually, in addition to presenting some great skills on coaching youth lacrosse, she also presented the PCA Double Goal Coach clinic that I'm going to talk about today. And what struck me about it is I left there and actually was coaching a 3rd, 4th lacrosse team that season. I was able to take the things that she taught me in that clinic and I used them right away. I used them in a parent meeting and I used them in basically my player expectation, this is how the season's going to go information. So I was able to use the stuff right away. And then the second person is Jay Johnson. He's a coach that I coach both girls hockey and lacrosse with, and 3 or 4 years ago he won the Double Goal Coach Award from PCA for the Stillwater Area Hockey Association. He was nominated by several of the players' parents and won the award. And he and I are good friends, and he actually gave me this book after he won the award, and he said, you know, Mo, you got to read this book. You know, you'll love it. You'll learn a lot from it. And so I did. You know, it's not very long, and you all have it here today, The Power of Double Goal Coaching. But I took it home and read it, and it's still something that I always have with me when I'm coaching. I have it in my coaching backpack. Sometimes when I'm getting ready for a new season, I just take it out and flip through it and remind myself of, you know, what are some of the key components I want to have as part of my season. And so that was something that you know, I absolutely love this book, and I really love that it provides all of us coaches here a common language that we can use when communicating with, you know, with parents, with players, and with our athletes. The thing that I think struck me and made me a little bit sad about what I learned is that a statistic that's in the book, and it's early on, about, you know, we have millions of athletes. There's over 40 million youth playing sports in our country, and which is phenomenal. And my 3 kids play sports, and I drive down the street to the park and I see, you know, kids playing soccer and basketball and lacrosse and hockey and whatnot. But what the research shows is that a significant number drop out, and the statistic is that close to 70% quit youth sports by the time they're 13. So that struck me, and I guess I'll ask you all here, all you coaches, why do you think that is? Why do you think close to 70% of kids are dropping out of youth sports by the time they're 13? Does anybody have an idea?
Crazy parents.
Crazy parents, yes. What do crazy parents do?
Push too hard.
Push too hard, which does what? What does it take away for the kids? Why do kids play youth sports?
No fun.
Right. Kids play sports because they want to have fun. And research shows that kids quit sports because they're just not having fun anymore. And I don't know about you, but I certainly don't like people yelling at me, pointing out all the things that I do wrong, telling me to maybe drop and do 20 push-ups or run 5 laps around the field because, you know, I forgot something, and make an example, embarrass me in front of my friends. That's not fun, even at my age. So, you know, what I love about this is that if we as coaches can embrace the power of double goal coaching, we can reverse that trend and make sure that we keep kids playing youth sports far beyond the age of 13. I'd like to play a video for you, and this is from Steve Young, a national advisory member for the Positive Coaching Alliance, and he's talking about the impact of youth sports coaches. And so you see that video, so you got to hear that video. What was Steve Young's message? What was his message to us?
That the first couple coaches were the most important in his life.
First
most
couple
influential.
coaches. That's us. That's us sitting here. He mentioned parent volunteers. That's you and me. And I love Steve Young, and I love watching football. I've watched him for years when he was a player, and now it just, as he's interviewed or doing sports commentary. It was shocking to me that someone that achieved at such a high level, played in the NFL, he was going to go back and remember his first two coaches that he had as a young boy. But they were the ones that developed that passion for the game and probably made it possible for him to achieve at such a high level. So and all of us here, I know we talked at the beginning about our backgrounds a little bit, so I know that we're all athletes as well. I'd like you for a minute just to think about, the coaches that impacted you the most. Who were they, and what kind of impact did they have on you? If you could just think about that and maybe share with the person next to you who that person was and what kind of a difference they made in your life. I'll just give you maybe 1 or 2 minutes, then we'll share a couple stories. So go ahead. Okay. So I'm going to stop you now. I hope you had an opportunity to share some of your stories and maybe learn something from someone next to you and meet somebody new. Is there anybody that would be willing to share either their own story of a coach that was important to them, made a difference in their life, or a story that was shared with you? Yes.
Sure, I'll go. I've actually never told this story before. I would say, I'm serious, I would say my college hockey coach, I hated the guy, and I would say a third of the team quit. It's a Division I team in which I stuck it out, but I never went back to college for 30 years until my kids gave kids to a hockey game as a birthday present. That's how much he soured me on the sport.
Wow. And let me ask you this, that's an example of someone who, a negative impact, but was there a positive that came away for you? Did it change the way that you were in your own coaching career, or as you went on to play maybe other sports, or how you parented? Were there lessons there of things maybe not to do? What were some things that you took away from that?
I promised myself if I ever coached, I'd never be that guy.
Right. So that's one less coach like that we have to worry about. Thank you, Eric, for sharing that story. I appreciate it. Does anybody else have a story, or they learned from someone next to them about a coach that had a positive impact, or an impact on them, I guess, positive or negative? Yes, Kelly.
I had, in 7th grade, I decided to go out for the basketball team, and I had only ever played basketball in my driveway, so I thought I could play basketball. And I tried out for the team, and Donna Tyler was the name of the coach. And I realized when I tried out that every other person had played basketball before, and I was the only one that knew nothing about positions. I could shoot the ball, but I knew nothing about positions or anything. And she was probably the most excited and energized coach. She was so happy. She could not wait to get to the court every day. But when she met me and she heard I never played basketball before and I was a nervous wreck, she was like, "That is fantastic. I'm so excited you came out." And she just helped me through the first week of practice when I didn't know where to go and what to do. She never once made me feel bad for not knowing how to play. And she was encouraging the other teammates to really help us. And I just, to this day, I just picture her with this great big smile on her face. And anything that we did, good or bad, she just was so fired up and excited for us. So it just made it could have been a really terrible situation, me feeling like I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know how to play. And she really made it just so much fun.
Right.
That whole season.
What a positive experience. Thank you for sharing that. I love that story. And that's an example of how do we encourage kids that don't have the experience of playing a sport to play by being that kind of coach that makes them feel welcome and part of the group. So thank you, Kelly. That's fantastic. And I have to share because it's such a huge impact on my life. My first coach in high school was my 9th grade soccer coach, and he's someone that I met when I was 14 years old, so 30 years ago. And I still have his home number memorized. That's how much we were in contact. He not only was a fantastic coach in teaching me the skills of soccer, but he gave all of his athletes, so much more of his time and helped us with the, becoming responsible adults and how to treat people, how to, even in school, study habits. He was always a resource for us. And, I have had 3 kids. He's met all my children. He still lives in Connecticut. And when I go home, I see him. But I knew from a very young age that he was special. I tried to thank him. I said, "You've done so much for me." His name was Chuck Vernon, and we all called him Bruno. I said, "Bruno, you've done so much for me. You give so much of your time. I don't know how I can ever repay you." And what he said to me has stuck with me forever. And he said, "What you can do is you can be the kind of coach that does this for somebody else someday." And that truly was a message that he probably gave to me when I was 16 or 17 years old. And I've always been a coach. Through my different careers that I've had, I've always been a coach. And it's really because of what he did for me. I wanted to live up to that legacy and make sure that I gave back what he gave to me. So we as all as coaches here, we have wonderful stories to share and to learn from. And the bottom line is, we are now the ones that are going to be talked about someday by our athletes. So I'll ask you now, you can see up here, how do you want to be remembered? And we'll come back to that at the end. But how do you want to be remembered by your athletes? That's something we all have to think about. The next couple of slides, Positive Coaching Alliance is a nonprofit, and it was founded at Stanford University in 1998. You can see here that we have 11 chapters across the country and do workshops in many more locations that aren't even listed here. What we're doing in spreading this word about positive coaching has caught the attention of so many national corporations and governing bodies for sports. U.S. Lacrosse is up here, USA Rugby, Pop Warner, you can see up here. And these people believe in what we're doing. There's a lot of people with a lot of information, as well as our National Advisory Board members. These are top-level coaches and athletes. Phil Jackson is our national spokesperson. Brandy Chastain, Olympic soccer player, phenomenal. You can see Herm Edwards up here, a great NFL coach. These are all, and many more shown here. These are people that have learned about PCA, understand its mission of developing better athletes, better people, and want to share that message and help us share that message with as many people as we can. Well, let's get back to talking about what does it mean to be a positive coach. And I would ask you, when you hear that, when you hear positive coaching, what are some things that come to your mind? What are some things that you would say are affiliated with being a positive coach? Anybody have any ideas?
Being a good role model.
Yeah, being a good role model. That's a good one. Thank you, Ruben. Anybody else like to share when you think of a positive coach?
Happy talk.
Happy talk. Hey, good job. Good job. Yep, good play. Stuff like that. What else?
Not real serious.
Okay, so that I have found, and actually I'll be honest, when I first started thinking about positive coaching, that's sort of how I felt. Not real serious, maybe not, a lot of happy talk. Everybody gets a medal. And to be honest, what positive coaching is about is two things. One is striving to win, absolutely to win on the scoreboard, and also, and more importantly, to teach the life lessons that youth sports provide us that opportunity to do. So it's easy when you're here. We're in this conference room. We're not out on the field or on the ice or on the court. It's very easy to say, well, of course we want to win and teach life lessons, and we're going to be positive. And that's, I guess, at PCA we want you to strive to become a positive coach. That would be one end of the continuum. Can you think of what would be at the other end if positive coaching is at one end, what would be on the other end? Any ideas?
Negative.
Negative, right? Negative coach. And what are some examples of a negative coach? What might be some things that you would think of when you think of a negative coach?
Screamer.
Bad role model.
Bad role model. What else? Maybe not positive talk. Someone said, happy talk. This would be, maybe, well, probably Eric, your coach that you talked about that had such an impact on you would probably be a great example of the other end.
Yes, you would.
And Eric, if I can ask you a question, if you don't mind sharing with the group, would you say that the coach that you had in college was solely focused on winning?
I don't even know if that's true. He was solely focused on hating us, I'd say.
Yikes! Wow, well, that is horrible. But when we think about the opposite of a positive coach at PCA,
let's put it this way: if he was focused on winning, well, that's probably why he got fired and has never coached since, because we didn't do a lot of it.
Well, also he did not have the tools that he needed from Positive Coaching Alliance. And when you talk about the double goal coach, they have two goals. One is striving to win, and the other is teaching life lessons. So in our society, we typically do see two kinds of coaches. We see the coaches that are positive, that are striving to teach life lessons and to win, and we also see coaches that are solely focused on the scoreboard, on the outcome. And PCA terminology, we can talk about that as a scoreboard focus and then a mastery focus, and I'll get into more detail on that in just a bit. Well, so what PCA has done is created a development zone. Because as coaches, we know, we're going to talk about double goal coaching, but we know that it's not just about us and our athletes. Who else do we have that that influence what happens on the field, even at practice, for our athletes and for us? Can anyone think of some examples of people that also influence what we do and the messages that we send?
The parents.
The parents. The parents are a huge one. So if you look up here at this development zone slide, there's 4 different components of it. We already talked about double goal coach, and we'll focus more on that. But Kelly brought up parents. I don't know about you. I mean, my parents are always on the sidelines cheering, good job, great effort, girls, way to go. That's all I ever hear from my parents. Is that what you guys hear on the sidelines as well?
No.
No. What are some things that you guys hear your parents say either to the athletes or the refs or maybe even to you as coaches? What are some examples?
Run, shoot, pass, no, back, forward. Yes, no. What are you watching?
A lot of coaching, it sounds like. A lot of coaching going on from the parents, from the sidelines. And I'll be the first to admit, as a sports parent myself, I have done it. I have been that parent. And I'm very proud to say that PCA and this book have changed my life. And I don't think I've hit any lows since reading this and really incorporating into my life as a parent. So part of our development zone is we want to encourage second goal parents. Parents that understand that the coaches, we are the ones worrying about how the athletes will perform on the field, whether or not they win, and the lineup and how much playing time and who's playing where and all that stuff. And a second goal parent focuses on helping their athlete absorb the life lessons that sports teaches. That's the parent. The second goal, single goal leader. That's our organization. For me in Stillwater, that's the Stillwater Area Lacrosse Association or Stillwater Area Hockey Association, and they are the ones that defend our development zone. We need our single goal leader to set the tone, to define the culture. And simply put, the culture is how we do things here. How do we do things here? And if that's clearly defined, it makes everything that we do as coaches, as parents, and as athletes that much easier because we have a shared vocabulary of how we're going to play the game, how we're going to go about doing what we do. And then finally, we have the triple impact competitor. Those are the athletes. As coaches, we want to strive to help our athletes work to better themselves, their teammates, and the game. Okay, and there's a lot of influences that our athletes face today. So it's really important that we as coaches understand that. That's what our goal is. And so how do we do it? We can sit here and talk about it, but how do we do it? PCA has 3 principles. The first is the elm tree of mastery, which really is focusing on how do you get the wins. What does it mean to win? What is a winner? Filling the emotional tank is the second principle, and that's focusing on keeping the athlete engaged, keeping that learning happening, and what are some effective ways of doing that. And then finally, third is honoring the game, which is really taking the idea of sportsmanship and making it much more an active part of everything that you do. And I'm going to touch more deeply on the elm tree of mastery. We talked a little bit about 2 different kinds of coaches, and Eric has shared his story, and I think that contrasts with my first most impactful coach. And there's the movie We Are Marshall has 2 video clips that illustrate pretty nicely the 2 different kinds of coaches. One that we can define as someone whose emphasis is on the scoreboard and on winning, and the other whose emphasis is on the mastery of the skills and on so much more than just who wins or loses the game. So I'm going to play these video clips for you. I'll start with this first one. This is the original coach for the Marshall football team, and this is if you haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend it. It is a true story, but this coach and his team have just lost a game, and this is what his post-game speech is to his players. Okay, so pretty powerful. What did you hear there? What were some things that you can take away from that? And right, so you heard that the very last line. Sorry, Kelly, since I didn't play it.
No, that's okay. We know what it is.
The last line is what's his very last line? Winning is everything.
Everything.
Everything. So that just sums up what his philosophy is. Winning is everything. I mean, he does say some nice things. He's proud of them. They gave good effort, but winning is everything. And then the second one I'll play here. This is Matthew McConaughey is portraying the coach Jack Langle, who takes over as the coach of the Marshall football team. Actually has to build it from scratch because the entire team was killed along with their coach in a plane crash. So here's what he says to his team before a big game. Okay, so quite a contrast in what his message is. What are some things that you heard from that message from that coach?
We cannot be defeated.
Right. If you lay it on the line, if you give everything you have, if you play with heart, you cannot be defeated. Even if you are not ahead on the scoreboard, you cannot be defeated. So in PCA's language, the first coach would be considered a win at all costs, a scoreboard definition coach, and the second would be a double goal coach, a coach who's focused on mastery. And we'll get into that in more detail.
I'm going to stop you there, Maureen.
Am I out of time? Oh, crud!
That's okay. No, that's okay. That's okay. Some people have chosen to do their introduction as their 20 minutes.
Okay.
And that's what you did. I mean, it was a little longer because I know you wanted to get into Elm Tree of Mastery, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I mean, you did the intro, and you did the intro well, so that's okay.
Okay. But I was ready for the Elm Tree of Mastery.
Well, it's
Deborah,
going to serve you well in the future, being ready for the Elm Tree of Mastery. Hey, Maureen, it's not realistic to attempt to do the entire workshop opening and Elm in 20 minutes.
Okay.
And so Kelly, when she gives you 20 minutes to do a principle, she wants to know how you're going to start the workshop, the first 2 to 5 minutes. And then you would skip forward to whatever principle you're going to do. Now you did the full workshop opening piece, and I think that you did it very well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you moved at a realistic pace. I don't know how others feel. I do not think it was too slow or that you took too much time. I think to do that piece well and completely, you're going to need 15 to 20 minutes. So I thought this was a great practice session here.
Okay.
Great final presentation. And I'll also say that first 15 to 20 minutes is arguably the most important part of the workshop, for setting the tone and credibility and pulling us in. And so I thought it was a very good session.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I did too. I was going to say the same thing. I think, your intro was perfect. And at first I was thinking, how's she going to get to Elm Tree of Mastery? And then I was thinking, let's not. You don't need to get to Elm Tree. I mean, we did get to see your Elm Tree of Mastery last week, so it's okay. We know you can do that too. But as Ruben said, this is an important part of the workshop, and you kept our attention during some of the parts, just talking about the National Advisory Board and the chapters. Your voice is very engaging, and that is a really important part. I thought you did a great job. Some of the other things I loved that you used certain terminology that will come back again full circle in the workshop. You talked about the importance of having a common language, and that's one of the key components of why people love our program, because it does give you a common language. You also said, I love it when people put in some type of, I call it the humble aspect of it, where you say, I used to be like this as a sports parent, and now I'm different. I like it when trainers admit their mistakes, that they've done something wrong and they've learned from it, because that, it knocks you down a couple levels where the people can relate to you more.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's really good. I love, and I don't even know if you meant to do it, but when you said, it never even dawned on me before to say, how would you like to be at work? And somebody comes in at work and says, drop and give me 20, you forgot to put your report on my desk. And you didn't go that far. But when you said, I was just thinking, I just wrote that down for I would put that in a workshop. If you forget to do something at work and somebody says, drop and give me 20 or do a lap, I always use the thing is, how would you perform if your boss was yelling at you? But I thought that was great. I just wrote that down as steal that nugget, because I think that's awesome.
Okay, thanks.
So those are the three things I really liked. I thought your pace was good. Again, your voice is good. You kept us engaged, and I really liked it. Eric, did you have some things you'd like to say?
Sure. Again, they're pretty similar. The overriding thing, I think, did an excellent job as well. You're really a very comfortable listen. Things that I really identified with well is the notion you made reference that immediately they can start applying. That you yourself, your background and mine are similar. That we found out about PCA as someone that was sent to a mandatory coaching clinic. So you immediately were made, while talking about various levels, you also made us feel like, you're one of the people in the room, and then talked about how you used it the very next day or that afternoon is always pretty inspiring. I really liked that. I thought that was excellent. I think what little nugget in the back of your mind, for what it's worth, if you do use Steve Young, I don't want to call it Sphincterman because that can't be his last name, but it's something like that. Shea from Cleveland, he pointed out that Steve Young played for, close. Yeah, whatever. Bad at the list. Anyhow, the point is that Steve Young played for Lavelle Edwards at BYU and Bill Walsh, both both are Hall of Fame coaches, one collegiate and one professional, and I don't know if there are many other people that have played for Hall of Fame coaches in both. I like that. I just think it's kind of an interesting nugget that I think is worth adding. If you're going to use the video, I would use that.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, that is good.
I liked it. It really, as Kelly said, it made it clear that you come back to this at a later date. You sort of like gave us an appetizer on things, and the way you move things along I thought was excellent as well. I had some other nugget that I thought was also excellent, but I don't really remember it right now. But again, big picture, I thought you did very well. So
thank you.
Mm-hmm. Ruben, did you have anything to add? Or are you good?
You know, Maureen, in your last practice presentation, you started out by telling us that you weren't prepared, and yet, you know, we all agreed that it was great that you still went and presented and got a lot out of it, and it's also very noticeable when you are fully prepared. I mean, a clear difference. So I mean, I think it's great that you practice twice. Yeah. And today you really shined and showed what you're going to be like as a trainer.
Okay, great. Thanks.
I remember the one thing I did want to say. Your story of the coach, your personal coach, was awesome. Keep a personal story in my back pocket if I'm floundering around and no one else gives me the best answer or a great answer. But I never tell them unless I really think that mine illustrates it best. I would urge you strongly to tell that every time as the last thing. I just think it was that good. I mean, to be 16 years old and have the man say to you to basically do what I've been doing. And remember, we're ending the workshop on legacy. I mean, that to me was an outstanding story. I really feel like you need to. That will always advance the workshop, in my opinion. I really hope that you do tell that as the last person to go.
Okay.
Well, and it's not to one up the crowd. You use it to transition and to highlight the key point there. You know, the way you finished it. When how can I ever thank you? You can thank me by being this kind of coach. Right. To me, that's what's really stood out about it.
Yeah. Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent. Jess, did you have anything to comment on Maureen's before we let you go?
No, honestly, Maureen, I just thought I really loved your engagingness. Like, just you're very you deliver like very powerful statements just with a really cool timing. So it drew people in. That's what I liked about it. It was just it was like a calm demeanor, but you drew folks in and they want to answer your questions that you were asking. So I thought that was pretty awesome.
Thanks, Jessica.
You're welcome.
All right.
I'm going to stay and watch Jessica.
Cool. That's great.
Okay.
So, Jess, what are you going to be doing for us?
You know what? I'm going to do I was thinking about doing another concept, but I kind of want to do Elm Tree and Mastery too.
That's fine.
It wasn't on before. I don't know. Can you see me? Because I like to stand.
No, we can see you.
Is that good?
Yep. You're good.
Awesome.
All right. So I will give you 20. Oh, that's here. All right. So whenever you're ready, go for it. You can. We are your audience.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. That welcome was pretty incredible. I guess what you've learned about me through this little introduction is really that I'm a multi-sport lover, if you will. I love sport. I love life, and I hope that what we're going to kind of cover today in this double goal power of double goal coaching right here book. What you're going to see is that there's a really unique aspect that what we're offering here with Positive Coaching Alliance. I know that there's a lot of different coaches in the room. I don't know what your backgrounds are, but mine, like I said, is very diverse. I think the biggest thing that we can take away from today through this workshop is understanding that there's a unique combination between sport and life, and when we can combine those two, when we can take sport and the lessons we learn there and then combine them into our our lives and what we are offering as coaches, it's a very powerful concept. Positive Coaching Alliance came to me, I think, at the right time in my life. I've been a coach my whole life. I've just been coaching without a lot of training, if you will, other than on-the-job training. In this workshop, I hope will kind of uncover and start talking about the shift in the culture that we need to make so that sport becomes something a little more unique to each individual. And that's what this is going to be today. So we're going to kind of think of an onion and start uncovering some layers. I would like to know a really cool question, and I'd like to see some answers and maybe some thoughts in the audience. Close your eyes and think about sports. And have you had a fun memory in sport? I know I had one when I was 4 years old, and I can feel it like it was yesterday. Anybody have a fun memory that they gained through being an athlete or being in a sporting environment? Who'd like to share? This is a very interactive session, so anyone want to share a fun memory that they might have had?
I think the first one that came to me was high school baseball, senior year. I won the bubble gum blowing contest on an away baseball game. I ate 27 pieces of bubble gum.
That is amazing. 27 pieces of bubble gum.
Well, Ruben will tell you I have a big mouth, so.
Very cool, very cool. Anyone else have a fun memory that they want to? I saw a lot of smiles in the audience, which was awesome. Anybody else have a fun memory?
Jessica, what came to mind for me is several different moments in competition. Mm-hmm. Exciting plays, pressure plays, performing, cutting through with teammates. Yeah. A lot of those came to mind.
I love that. So we have two spectrums here. We've got Eric talking about this fun moment with shoving a bunch of bubble gum in his mouth and woo! And then Ruben brings up fun moments can actually be competitive. They can be competitive. So we're talking about competing and yet having fun. And if we can incorporate those two things, fun and competition, that's really what this double goal coaching workshop is going to be about. And I hope you can kind of see what the concepts that we're going to start unveiling, which is a pretty awesome thought process. We've all been impacted. We're coaches. We're all coaches in this room, and how many of us love to win? I'm going to throw up two hands. Sorry. Because that is our ultimate goal as coaches, right? We want our kids to experience that freedom and what that liberating thing is to win. But in the same breath, listening to Eric speak about what his fun moment is and listening to what Ruben says about his fun moment is that it's about that effort, right? That team coming together to make something happen. So that's what we're going to do here with the Positive Coaching Alliance. I'd like to kind of open up and share with you a little bit about who we are and what we've created. The Positive Coaching Alliance has just created a great development zone. It is a website full of resources for us as coaches. And, when I think about the impacts that we have, influential coaches and who they are in our lives, anybody out there have an influential coach that you want to share maybe an experience with, somebody who's impacted you for not only sport but in life? Because that's really what we do here at Positive Coaching Alliance. So does anybody have an influential moment or an impactful moment that you share with a coach that you'd like to share with the group? Okay, Kelly.
Yeah, I have a college coach, my college field hockey coach, who was a brand new first-year Division I coach my freshman year in college, and she never made it feel like she was the all-knowing expert. She really came down to our level on a lot of things. She was the first to admit mistakes. We were kind of in this together, learning together, and I'm still friends with her today. Her daughter just got married a few months ago. I was invited to her daughter's wedding, and just somebody that in the off season spent a lot of time with us, getting to know us, going to the movies and having pizza, and during the season she was intense, all right. I mean, she definitely pushed us. She was an Olympic field hockey player, so we knew her caliber, but she just never made it feel like she was this, boss coach. She really always talked to us at our level, and she was very inspirational.
How cool. So you got inspiration from that, and that's still something that you bring today, I would assume, in your life, not just in your sporting career too. And that's really what this is all about. It's 2 goals. We're going to talk about that a lot. I appreciate you sharing that. I too had some impactful coaches in my life, and I have to say I've been blessed with that. I've had positive coaching in my life, even though they were win at all costs. They were definitely winning. The win at all costs mentality that you're going to hear about a little bit later in this session, we're going to see the 2 differences between someone who's really all about that versus someone who understands the whole picture of what sport can bring. So this development zone talks about double goal coaching. Of course, that's this workshop we're in, but who else and what other kind of components do you think create a good sporting environment, create an environment? I know parents are one. How many of you have parents out there that are just amazing and say, woo, cheer on the sidelines, all in a positive way? Some of you have coaches or parents that maybe don't do that?
Yep.
The opposite? Okay, so Maureen's saying yes. So what we've developed is we've developed some resources for parents too, which I think is awesome. So not just focusing on just the coach, but also that component of parent, and then also developing workshops for the athletes to really develop and become better people along the process, along the way of sport. And then really that other 4th component is that administrator, the organizational structures who are keeping our development zone of shifting that culture of what our sport should look like in today's standards versus where we've been in sport. I'm going to throw a question out there. How many of us think that sport maybe has changed in the last 10 years? Has sport kind of changed in the last 10 years? Yeah, okay. So when we talk about the changing dynamic of sport and what it is, that's what Positive Coaching Alliance is going to kind of open. And we have 3 principles that we cover in relationship to what is a positive coach. What is a coach who can talk about 3 concepts? One is the Elm Tree of Mastery. The Elm Tree of Mastery is something that's going to kind of cover the ideas of developing really positive and not just positive, but getting the best out of a player, kind of getting their performance and their levels to raise. And to me as a coach, we all agree that we love to win. So getting players who perform better is really going to produce the results that we'd like to see long term in having better people as well as better athletes. So really pulling those together. The second concept is called filling the emotional tank, and it sounds just like you would think. When somebody's in a positive place and feels good about themselves, their play is going to raise. I mean, I know when I was fed some good information, I feel better. So I was listening to someone else's workshop, and I heard her say something along the lines that, think about it when you're playing or when you're at work, and if you don't put your report on the line, boom, what's going to happen? You're going to have to do 20 push-ups? The answer is no. So I love that concept, and I am stealing today because I think that's an important thing to kind of recognize that we're all in this together. That's why in this environment, I'm going to learn from you all as much as you'll learn from me, I hope, and just sharing experiences and resources. And the last principle is honoring the game, truly honoring the game. And what that means is really getting our athletes, our players, our parents, everyone, these principles kind of will go along lines whether you're a parent or an athlete, but raising the level of the game and understanding that it's more than a scoreboard result as much as it is about developing good folks and good people in life. So, there's a couple of videos I'd like to share with you, and I think that'll kind of open the door in the dialogue a little bit about to the kind of coach that maybe you want to be. I mean, we all, like I said early on, we have the impact and the powerful ability to be able to shift these young people that we're coaching. So this is from a movie called We Are Marshall. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but there's going to be 2 different videos. In the first video, I'd like you to kind of think about being in that room at that time with that coach and you being one of the players. And tell me how you feel, and we're going to talk about how you feel after this video plays. So I'm going to go ahead and play it for you, and we can kind of talk about this first type of coach. Play the video. Awesome. So how did you feel? How did that coach?
I felt guilty, and like I'd let like I'd let the coach down.
Yep.
Holy cow. That's powerful. Isn't that what we all want as coaches, for kids to feel guilty? So that's the impact that we're talking about, right? I'd like to share a story. My niece is a collegiate athlete, and she's actually playing for a coach very similar to this gentleman here. So in 2015, it still happens, which is kind of crazy to me, knowing what I know, walking through this course. I gave her a triple impact competitor book and said, read it, and she called me up and she goes, okay, what do you do when your coach is violating all of these? And I said, you know what? You take a step back and you do what you can do for yourself, you know? And it's been a really cool learning experience for her as an athlete, but as that coach, when we talk about this, and Ruben, thank you for sharing, feeling guilty. That's really not what we want out of ourselves as coaches, I don't believe. I think we want to win, yes, but we also want to have a cool environment for youth to be able to be a part of. So this, what's interesting is there's a slide here that I'm going to kind of show you before I show you this other video, and there was some research done, over 25 years of research from sports psychology, and Joan Duda shared some interesting information. She did a really cool research study with over 2,000 soccer players in 2000 sports Olympics, and what she developed and what she asked them was two big questions. So she interviewed all these soccer players that are in the Olympics, and she asked them two things. One, do you focus more on the scoreboard and winning? Or two, do you focus more on mastering your sport and getting better? And those are powerful questions, so she put it out there. I'm going to kind of ask you all the same thing. Pretend like it'd be cool if we were in the Olympics right now, but let me ask you all the same question. So how many of you think, just raise your hand, how many of you think that most of those players focused on scoreboard and winning? Okay. How many of you all think that they focus more on the mastery of the game and getting better? Okay, I see a few more hands raising. Okay. Now, you're right. Those who said number two, actually, survey says, if you will, that those who focused on that. And now the bigger question is, why do you think that? Why do we all think that? I mean, I have my own personal opinion, but I'd love to hear from you guys. Why do you think that those who focused on that mastery and that getting better actually won more medals, earned more medals, and were kind of on that higher end, if you will, of success in the views of others?
Well, Jessica, I'll give you an analogy. I could really want a cake. I could want a chocolate cake, and I could want it really, really bad.
Uh-huh.
And that might motivate me to start a process, but it's not going to make a cake appear. What's going to make the cake appear is the work I put into the process, following the recipe, going out and getting the ingredients. You know, that's what's going to make the cake appear. So
very good. I love that analogy because I'm a little hungry actually. And I am a chocolate fiend, so you win the prize. But I love that. I love that, and that is so true. You know, I'd like to segue into this next video, and let's remember we saw the first video where it was a coach that Ruben had shared with kind of felt guilty, felt like you let him down. Maybe there was some fear. Okay, now let's watch this video. Put yourself in those shoes again. Okay, and let's see how this coach responds to his players. All right. So, powerful video. How'd you feel? Anybody?
I want to play for that guy.
You want to what?
I want to play for that guy.
Oh, yes. Agreed, agreed, agreed. So, I shared both these videos with the niece I was telling you about, the collegiate softball player, and she's like, can we talk to somebody to try to get him to come? So it's ironic that those were her same words as well. And you know what? She has played for some of those. It just doesn't happen to be the one today. So it's awesome that she's been able to see the differences between those two types of styles. She herself wants to be a coach, which I'm excited to hear and to know that I maybe have had some influence in my nieces wanting to walk in those shoes. But what's amazing is she now has these two perspectives of what she sees and who she wants to be and what she's going to pull of in order to be the best coach she can be and impart some legacies. So it was kind of cool. She said the other day, she goes, I want to be a coach like you. And I was like, oh, wow. So, we are making a difference. That's what we do every day. Coaches, we make differences every day. Whether we realize it or we don't, we are touching tons of lives. So that's why Positive Coaching Alliance has just been something so fun to be a part of. I'll tell you, I'm going to segue into this next slide, and let's talk about really kind of pull, like I said, we're going to pull the layers back. Well, here's a big layer to pull back of the onion. This one first principle, the elm tree of mastery, it's kind of the crux. It is like the nugget, the foundation that we can build on and move forward to hear the other two principles as we move forward. But if we can think about sport, we just went through that little slide and we talked about what Joan Duda had kind of gone through with all of those Olympians and what she found in relationship to a scoreboard mentality, a results-based mentality versus mastering the sport. And that's who we are as Positive Coaching Alliance. We want to talk about that mastery definition. What does that mean? And really kind of open the dialogue. And it's awesome to be in a room full of coaches with this much experience, because I'm sure every one of you could be up here and sharing 500 different stories of what you've experienced in your lifetime. So if we think about the scoreboard definitions, it is results-based. It is that winning at all costs. It's that first video that we watched where you might have felt fear, where you might have felt guilt, where how many of you, and it's okay because I may have done it in my past too, but if you made 4 errors on a softball field, you had to do 4 pulls. Yeah, okay. That's part of what we're talking about here. That's part of what we're talking about here. So being results-driven versus being effort. Recognizing that effort is really where this is about, the hard work, the time that it takes. And Ruben kind of eloquently put that when we were talking about that second type of coach, and how he felt. He felt that it was really about that. The second component to the definition of mastery is really about learning. That learning and that environment and improvement, which is something also that was really proven in that last slide, was that development of learning experiences versus comparing yourself with others. Who's playing first today? Well, she didn't come to practice yesterday, or why did he get it? Because he dropped 4 passes, so why is he the one? And then this last component, this is the one that really hit home to me in our principle of the Elm Tree of Mastery, is that in that scoreboard definition, mistakes really are not okay. They're not. And in our mastery definition, mistakes are okay. Not necessarily celebrated per se, but they're certainly utilized in those teachable moments that we talk about. My background, like you heard earlier, was also in teaching and educating, so who better to understand, all of us as coaches, we are similar to educators, where we're looking for those mistakes to hopefully be able to grow from. So how many of us as coaches, I'm going to ask another question, how many of us as coaches love it when a mistake happens? Like somebody makes an error and you're like, yes, she made an error. No, okay. I don't think so. So I agree. I agree. Mistakes are a part of what we call life, yes. So I got a question. So we're looking at this slide right here, and there's a bunch of little kids, and they're sitting there with uniforms on. And when I see that, let's say they played a game, maybe they lost, and they went out to eat afterwards. Does that happen usually? Whether you win or lose, you always go out to eat afterwards, right? So while they're sitting there, usually a coach will walk up to them and say, hey, did you guys win? That's usually the first question that is asked, right? Tell me how you think that child should respond knowing that they lost. Is that time?
That's time, yep.
Oh, okay.
You can finish your thought, though. You don't have to cut you off mid-sentence.
Oh, yeah, no, okay. So how, okay.
Here, we're just about to eat.
So I said, so how do you feel when you ask that question? How do you think that child feels? Like what kind of place are they in, knowing that they just lost the game?
Not a good one.
Not a good one, exactly. So I think what we're going to do here is really kind of delve into what that means for winning and losing, and understanding that mistakes that we're talking about, that not only are they celebrated, but that what can happen, This is what I've shared with my kids when we've gone out. We've lost. And I said, but didn't you have a good game? Wasn't it a quality game? Didn't we do these things? And then that child can go ahead, and that youth athlete, whoever, can go ahead and share with that person, you know what, you're right, we lost, but so-and-so made a diving play, and you should have seen it, and she hit a home run. You know, and celebrate those moments, because there's moments in between all of that L word that need to be celebrated, and that's really what Positive Coaching Alliance is about. So, okay, boom, boom.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Well done.
Thank you.
I think, can I go first? I think, you know, the same as Maureen. You're captivating. You're energized. You make me want to listen to what you have to say, and I love the way that the way you talk is very conversational, and I can relate. I feel you're very easy to relate to, and I think that's great. I have more on here of, I mean, there's so many positives, Jessica, about what you did. I love the way you tell stories and the way you talk and the way that you ask the audience to get engaged. I had some things that were just suggestions just based on your content. And like Ruben said about the cake analogy, the first one I have when you said, you know, I've been coaching forever but didn't have a lot of training. I think that's a really key point. And you brought it up later. You said something about teachable moments and that you're an educator. I think I heard at a workshop once that somebody said, you know, if you had a child that was going into a first grade class and you find out that that person had never gone to college, never gone to any training, how confident would you be in the fact that that first grade teacher could do a good job with your student and with your child? And you know, obviously you wouldn't. But how many of us entrust our children to coaches that have had absolutely no formal training ever? So here's the opportunity for us to give some training because we are educators and we're trying to teach, you know, character development. I just thought that was a really neat thing to put in your story that you talked about. I think that would have led right into that. So that was just an idea for you.
Okay.
Loved the way you said fun can be competitive. I think that's a key point that I got out of listening to you. Fun is competitive, and that is that they're not opposite ends of the spectrum. So I thought that was really good too. I also like the idea too. What else I took out of it that you said, as coaches, do we want to coach kids? Do we want them to feel guilty? Is that our goal? Because when you hear it in that perspective, it's like, of course, a kid that's feeling guilt and fear is not going to work. But when you think of it from your own perspective, what do we do to put guilt on our kids? We don't want that. I like how you had a positive spin on that. Like, that's not what we want, but sometimes we're doing it without realizing it. I thought that was really good. The one thing, too, and I think Maureen said it as well, and I wrote this down, 2 perspectives, and I don't know why I said it. I'll come back to that. I wrote down tell Maureen, too. Oh, I know what it was. When Eric commented that his most influential coach was negative,
yeah,
I like the way you turned it around, Maureen, to, well, what did you learn that was a positive out of that? And Jessica, you did something similar. You took a kind of a negative situation, and this is just maybe from my perspective. I've done a lot of workshops where a lot of coaches want it to be a venting session, or parents want to vent on how crazy coaches are and how horrible society is. So I think it was good the way both of you were able to take that and turn it into a positive.
Okay.
So that was excellent. Ruben or Eric, you guys want to jump in?
I can if you'd like. And let me just say, I had to take a work thing in for about 5 minutes at one point. So if I seem disjointed, I apologize. A lot of positive things. I'm just sort of reading off my notes here. You know, I'm big into language. I really liked how you talked initially about loving sport. I always feel it. You know, your energy is really resonates. I liked how you then segue to combine sport and life. I like the polling question of beginning with closing your eyes, and I liked how you used the word spectrum. And then I thought it showed really good listening, that you were able to take my story, which was fun, and Ruben's story, which was competing, and you linked them together, which, you know, you were literally thinking on your feet since you were standing up.
I'm standing up.
Showed really good listening skills. One thing I would say, and I would say to both of you, and I think maybe, you know, as a trainer, I may be guilty of overemphasizing polling questions, is breaking up the rhythm of them. And I notice this with Mo as well. And this is a personal opinion. There's sometimes where I think is like really feel strongly about what this one, I don't mind getting pushed back at all, is not always having polling questions. So to me, the thing, particularly as it pertains to pacing, is not using polling questions around the development zone. To me, that's one where because you had a lot of polling questions later and you had polling questions earlier, and I think you run the risk of getting bogged down. So I don't know if Kelly, I apologize if it was taught differently. To me, the development zone, the biggest picture is recognizing that sports is not an entertainment entity, it's an educational entity. And what are we developing? And so clearly leadership sees great value in this. This is why we're here. Double goal coaching, we've talked, we will be talking through the remainder of the session on what it really means to be a double goal coach, a little bit of understanding on what it means.
I think we lost.
What's that?
I think we lost you for a second, but that's okay.
Okay, did you get enough of it?
Yeah, no, I think that was a really good point.
Okay, so I just think that will help you.
Yeah.
I like when you said we are making a big difference whether we know it or not. I would really hit that. Do you remember at one point you said to the coaches something to the effect of the implication that the legacy piece again. I mean, there's so many times it's not until 20 years later that you remembered something, and they just don't know it. So I would hit that. Anyway, I thought you did very well.
Thank you.
The last thing I would say, and this is where I was off the phone. I mean, I had to take this other call for a second. This is a pet peeve of mine, really, is I didn't hear the entire thing of Joan Duda, but I would just say to anybody of the recognition of it isn't that we understand these things because the researchers tell us. We understand these things because we understand them intrinsically ourselves, and the research supports it.
Okay.
So independently, if you were to interview athletes on the world, we took two group of athletes on the world, went to the Olympics, which ones do you think would win more medals, the ones that want gold or the ones that want to see how they, on the world's biggest stage against the world's greatest athletes and see how they measure up? They're going to tell you without Joan Duda telling you. So I just always keep making sure that for everybody, we really use research to support what the people will tell you as opposed the other way around. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, I think that's a wonderful point. And I want to add to that it's not only Joan Duda's study that supports it, it's Joan Duda and 25 years of research in all kinds of fields that support this. Joan Duda is just one example we've pulled out because it has to do with sports and high performance.
Perfect.
But that principle is not just built on the Joan Duda study, as Eric pointed out. Kelly, we need to be on another hangout at 10?
Yeah, we do,
okay,
but I think both of you did a great job, and we will follow up with you guys. Go ahead.
Hey, Jessica, I have a couple things I'd like to share with you, but I can't right now because we got to jump on another hangout. Yep. Maybe there's a time where you and I can just get on the phone for 5 minutes.
All right.
I thought it was very good, Jessica. Very good again.
Thank you, Ruben. I appreciate it. All right. Awesome.
Yep. Jessica, I have a couple things. I know they have to go, but if you have a minute, I can talk to Jessica. I just wanted to share.
You guys can stay on here if you want to. Sure.
Okay.
I got a 1 o'clock call also, but I just Mo, it's nice meeting you, and Jess, always good seeing you again.